So it looked like the first Indiana Fever to address Raven Johnson. Now, this should not come as a surprise because it's Aliyah Boston, man. So Aliyah Boston went on her podcast today to break the news to the world, how she feel about Raven Johnson being drafted to the team, how she thinks about Caitlin Clark being paired up with Raven Johnson, and pretty much the Indiana Fever front office.
The first Indiana Fever athlete to publicly address the Raven Johnson was Aliyah Boston. Circumstance. She discussed what it will be like to have Raven on her program with Candace Parker protect Caitlin Clark at practice following her college lockdown by Raven. She brought up the uncomfortable of joining forces with a player who scored 40 points against you during the Final Four, and her remarks regarding fan conflict versus player feud highlights all the issues with the way people are responding to this selection choice.
Transition game's going to be pretty nice. You know, I'm happy to have my girl Raven. I think Raven is going to have a good W career. Like, I'm excited that she gets to start it at the Fever. So we'll see. I mean, I'm excited.
I can't wait.
When Aliyah Boston acknowledges that supporters have far more animosity than athletes do, and that once. If you wear the same jersey, does it suggest that everyone's anxiety over the Raven-Caitlin dynamic is unfounded? Or is Aliyah only using tact to steer clear of controversy?
Is Gabriela Jaquez. And then we just go straight up Bruins all day.
Kiki Rice to Toronto.
Kiki Rice to Toronto, which shocked me a little bit. We got Martin to Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got Flage, which was drafted by Golden State, but we'll get to that in a second. Raven Johnson, your teammate, fellow Gamecock.
Since this is the first time someone from the Indiana Fever has mentioned it, let's discuss what Aliyah Boston recently stated on her podcast. The elephant in the room about Raven Johnson has been directly addressed by the organization. Aliyah is the one who should. She is now teammates with both athletes, so it makes perfect sense. East-South, she played alongside Raven. Carolina, in Indiana, she plays with Caitlin. She is the ideal individual to close that gap and clarify how this is going to be successful. While Aliyah and Candace Parker began working on their podcast, they went through the WNBA draft selections. Many folks were perplexed when they talked about Minnesota receiving the second choice. Given that Minnesota was the league's top team the previous season, it turns out that they traded for Chicago's pick 2 years ago. When Angel Reese was drafted, the skies leaped up. Thus, Chicago effectively exchanged 2 first-round selections in a row to advance and acquire Reese, which now that Olivia Miles went to Minnesota at number 2, seems utterly awful in retrospect.
I can't wait to hear about that first practice where it's going to be a little awkward. I mean, I know that Caitlin Clark and Raven have probably talked since then, but it's got to be a little, you know what I mean? Especially when you're a defensive player like her, like, you're going to come in, you're probably going to be playing against the first unit, to be honest with you. She's not probably going to start. And so you're going to be battling against her in practice. And the Fever, I think, have done a great job, obviously, of drafting. Some have fallen into their laps, and clearly you were the number 1 pick. Clearly Caitlin was the number 1 pick. But I do feel like there are ways to make your franchise better with the others.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Now with an expanded roster, like, you're able to draft.
However, that is not the intriguing aspect. The intriguing part was when Raven Johnson's name appeared when they had to choose number 10. As soon as she got up, Aliyah shouted, "Cocks up, baby, let's go," which is typical of South Carolina, the Gamecocks. She was thrilled. She expressed her happiness at having Raven as a girl and her belief that Raven will have a successful WNBA career. And she's thrilled that Raven gets to initiate the Fever. Positive, encouraging, and drama-free. Which is precisely what you would anticipate from Aliyah Boston given her maturity and professionalism, and not intending to disparage her new teammate on a podcast. However, Candace Parker's statement changed the course of the entire discussion. "Much more fascinating. It will be a little weird," she remarked, but she is eager to hear about that first practice. Aliyah became genuine at that point. She admitted that, given Raven's guarded nature, it will likely be a little awkward. Player who will most likely face the first unit during practice. Thus, Raven Johnson is leaving to be playing defense for Caitlin Clark each and every day. Raven limited the same Caitlin Clark to a 5-4-20 shooting percentage in The national championship match in 2024, Ravens' college fame came from the similar defensive matchup. Basketball. According to Candace, the Fever have drafted well over the years, with Aliyah being the most. One pick, with Caitlin being the top choice. Additionally, given that their squad is larger, they can select players who make the squad more effectively in practice, even if they don't start right away. This is a tactful way of expressing. Raven Johnson is most likely going to be a practice player that helps the starters improve by providing their fierce protective stares. This is where the discussion became truly fascinating though. Aliyah shared her personal story. Caitlin and I became teammates following Iowa's Final Four victory against South Carolina. It was amusing, she claimed, since she thought, wow, I'm really someone who dropped 40 on our heads is going to be our teammate. It was so insignificant. That was not necessary for you to accomplish 40 points in the last 4 games against the nation's best defense. In that game, Aliyah Boston lost to Caitlin Clark, who completely crushed South Carolina. They are now teammates. Aliyah added that it was one of those situations in which they had to discuss it. It was sitting there between them, so they had to deal with it. However, Aliyah dropped the most crucial statement throughout the entire show. It's hilarious how the spectators always have more animosity than the athletes, she remarked. Truly do. Take a moment to consider that. There is no animosity between the players. The admirers do. The athletes are experts who realize that once you're on the same team, past games and college rivalries don't matter. However, it's the fans who unable to let it go. According to Aliyah, it's amusing to read all the content on the internet where followers are disparaging a specific individual, may despise someone else. After that, you play with that individual. Additionally, when you enter the gym, and you're prepared to hoop, that's all. The past is irrelevant. The college stuff is irrelevant. Being on the same team and pursuing the same objective is what counts. That was supported by Candace Parker. By stating that wearing a jersey has a genuine meaning, you support that individual. Everything that came before is irrelevant. That's what occurs, at least on excellent teams. Additionally, Aliyah and Caitlin have both performed at extremely high levels. Thus they are aware of that. That collegiate thing is all in the past. However, Candace also made a jest about sharing a few jokes with the group. Talk about specific topics on their anniversaries, such include making fun of teammates for previous defeats or awkward situations. Because teammates do just that, you're meant to make fun of one another. Aliyah also referred to her as lame for statement, but admitted that, yes, that is how teams operate. You make jokes about the past, but you don't harbor resentment. Let's now discuss the implications of all of this for the Raven Johnson case in particular. Aliyah Boston just provided us the blueprint for how this will operate. Caitlin and Raven will need to discuss it. They will need to deal with the history of Raven locking down Caitlin while she was at college. However, after they deal with it, it's finished. They go on. What counts is that they are now teammates. The people that won't are the supporters. Give it up, it's the fans that continue to debate whether Raven can protect Caitlin or whether there would be conflict in the locker or whether drafting Raven was disrespectful to Caitlin. Space. However, the players themselves? They are experts. They are aware that this is a business. They recognize that once the past is the past when you're on the same team. Oh, be honest, Aliyah is criticizing the fans for harboring more animosity than It is arguably the most candid statement made by any Fever player regarding this entire circumstance. Because she is entirely correct. The athletes are focused on winning, and the spectators are the ones turning it into drama. Basketball games, and the fans' main goal is to generate controversy and plot lines. However, there is more to this. It is worth talking about. Raven will most likely play against the first unit in practice, according to Candace Parker, because she specializes in defense. Raven's job on this team is to improve the starters by providing them with strong defense. Looks in action, she's not there to begin with. She isn't there to steal the rotation players' minutes. She is there to serve as a practice player who can challenge the starters to improve and defend at a high level. It's definitely beneficial to have her defend Caitlin Clark in practice every day if that's her duty. For Caitlin to be ready for it in games, she must experience high-level defensive pressure throughout practice. That pressure can be applied by Raven. Her skill set is just that, and in actuality, she can make Caitlyn work for everything, which will help Caitlyn become more adept and ready to take on elite defenders in real games. What about Candace's comment on the awkward first practice? The players are only uncomfortable if make it uncomfortable. Furthermore, according to Aliyah, the players won't make it uncomfortable. They will deal with it. After acknowledging the past, move on. Since that's what experts do, let's now discuss what Aliyah didn't say, since it's nearly as fascinating as what she did say. Raven wasn't trashed by her. She didn't challenge the choice. She didn't voice any worries about Raven's compatibility with the squad or potential chemistry problems. Her unwavering optimism and encouragement implies that the athletes in the Fever locker room are. Despite the fans' disapproval, everyone is in favor of this choice. Additionally, Aliyah refrained from criticizing the front administration for the roster building. The fact that there are 8 guards in one center was not mentioned by her. She didn't ask why they took another point guard when Ty Harris and Caitlin Clark are already there. She simply stated that the Fever had a fantastic draft selection and that Raven will have a successful WNBA career. All good, all encouraging. Which indicates that either Aliyah is being tactful or she truly thinks this is an excellent choice and match. Not voicing any worries in public. Knowing Aliyah, it's most likely a mix of the two. She is competent enough to not criticize her company on a podcast, but she's also astute enough to recognize the benefits of having an elite defender on the team, even if it's not a great match. Another noteworthy statement made by Aliyah is that she believes Raven will have a successful WNBA career. Not merely a strong beginning or a successful debut campaign, successful career. From someone who spent years playing with Raven at South Carolina, that is a pretty powerful recommendation. And is an expert in her field. Aliyah has witnessed Raven's growth. Her work ethic has been observed. She is aware of Raven's abilities. Additionally, she believes Raven will be successful in the professional ranks. That ought to be taken into consideration while discussing whether, at 10, Raven was the proper choice. Because Aliyah Boston doesn't provide meaningless praise. If she doesn't think Raven will have a successful career, she won't say so. She also understands what it takes to excel in the WNBA due to her personal experience. Therefore, if Aliyah believes Raven will succeed, that is a genuine recommendation. Let's now talk about the elephant in the room that Aliyah danced around without mentioning. Whether Raven and Caitlyn can work together on the same team is not the true question. They can, of course. They are experts. The true question is if Raven improves the Fever or if she is unnecessary on a team that has too many guards already. Furthermore, Aliyah did not immediately respond to the query. She discussed the worth of Raven as a guard. She expressed her excitement in having Raven join the squad. However, she did not describe how Raven slots into the rotation or what particular role she'll play outside of practice defense, indicating that even Aliyah doesn't currently have a definitive response to that query. But it's probably not Aliyah's responsibility to sort it out. Stephanie White is responsible for that. It is up to White to figure out how to employ Raven in a way that improves the team. With 8 guards and 1 center, White is responsible for overseeing the rotation. It is White who must make this roster-building activity on the court. According to Aliyah, the players will carry out their tasks and have faith that the front office and coaches have a strategy. Raven will be welcomed to the team by Aliyah. Encourage her as a teammate and assist her in adjusting to the professional level. It is likely that Caitlyn will follow suit. Raven will aim to win her spot on the team by playing hard and defending. It's the fans who are. It's going to be dramatic. Every interaction between Raven and Caitlyn will be overanalyzed by the fans. Where there is no feud, it will be created by the supporters. And Aliyah simply pointed it out directly by stating that there is always more animosity between fans and players. The bottom line is as follows. Aliyah Boston appeared on her podcast and provided the most direct, honest analysis of the Raven Johnson scenario that we will ever hear. Within the Fever organization, she admitted that the situation was odd. She admitted that she and, when they were teammates, Caitlyn had to discuss their Final Four experience. Raven and Caitlyn will, she said, She also made it very apparent that none of this is really an issue, even though they most likely need to do the same thing. There is no animosity between the players. The past is the past. You are on the same side once you put on the same jersey. Additionally, anyone who believes that Raven Johnson will bring drama or friction in the Fever locker room is projecting their emotions onto a situation that the players themselves are managing expertly. Fans should relax and follow Aliyah Boston's lead. Allow the athletes to be experts. Allow them to work things out on the court. And quit making drama out of nothing. Aliyah Boston recently revealed the truth is that fans' animosity for Raven Johnson and Caitlin Clark is far greater than that of the players themselves. They'll deal with the unpleasantness, move on, and concentrate on winning basketball games like pros, she said. It's not the players that are making this dramatic, but the fans. If you're looking for a more accurate analysis of Fever without artificial drama, click like and subscribe for authentic material.